Hello and welcome to the Moviedio channel. Today we're going to discuss the fantasy movie Dragon Wars. Be prepared for some spoilers. A woman with the spiritual energy to convert a serpent into a celestial dragon is born every 500 years. The entity who wields this power has the ability to decide the fate of humanity by either destroying or saving the world. The authorities are investigating the sudden appearance of a massive trail, which appears to have been produced by a gigantic beast somewhere in Los Angeles. Ethan is a reporter who has come to examine the incident, but the federal agents refuse to answer any of his questions and tell him to go right away. However, when the man peers into the field, he notices what appears to be a piece of scale buried beneath the ground. Ethan remembers seeing something similar when he was a kid, and he begins reminiscing as he stares into a peculiar pendant he wears. Ethan accompanied his father to a local antique store 15 years ago, where the guy attempted to sell a sword to the store owner, Jack. When the boy goes through the items, he notices a peculiar box that opens when it senses his presence. When the box is opened, it shows a massive scale that emits an aura toward the youngster. When the store owner notices this, he has a heart attack, but when his father tries to call an ambulance, Jack urges him to go to the next shop and buy a medicine instead. Ethan's father tells the youngster to take care of the elderly guy and leaves, but it turns out that Jack lied about everything in order to speak with the boy alone. He tells Ethan that the heavens are home to huge serpents known as Imoogis, and that every 500 years, one of the serpents is rewarded for its good conduct and transformed into a heavenly dragon. The monster need a mystical artifact known as the Yuh Yi Joo for this to happen, but the wicked snake Buraki and his followers have been attempting to steal the item for a long time. The heavens chose to hide the Yuh Yi Joo 500 years ago by sending it to a city in Korea and guarding it with its best warriors, Haram and his master Bachun, but the evil snake also knew where it was hidden. Naran, the local lord's daughter, was born with a dragon birthmark on her shoulder and is destined to be the holder of the Yuh Yi Joo. The Yuh Yi Joo would form inside the girl when she reached the age of 20, and the wicked serpent would reappear. Naran matures into a lovely woman, and she begins to fall in love with Haram, who reciprocates her feelings. Haram is shown the good Imoogi, who is destined to become a celestial dragon, by the master, and the young man is taken aback as the gigantic creature swims through the waters. Bachun also gives the man the medallion that only Yuh Yi Joo's protector wears, which may defend him from harm when his life is in jeopardy. The evil snake eventually leads all of his troops to the village in quest of the girl, and the army fires a barrage of bombs at the residents, causing massive destruction. They charge into the city, killing all of the guys one by one because the people are no match for their dragons and magic. They round up all of the women and search among them, looking for the girl with the dragon birthmark on her shoulder. When the army arrives at the Lord's house, Naran's father is killed in front of her, leading the daughter to flee and cry for her dead parent. The soldier tears her clothes open, revealing her true identity, and drags her away from her home. Fortunately, the master appears and uses his magic to defeat the army, allowing Haram to save the girl. The two flee to safety, and the man reveals the truth about Naran's fate. After being injured, the master manages to flee the battle, but he discovers the medallion on the ground and his people nowhere to be seen. Instead of bringing the woman to the virtuous Imoogi, Haram tries to flee with her, and the evil serpent Buraki pursues them. When they are cornered on a cliff by the creature, they decide to jump and fall into the waves, killing themselves. Ethan is given the protector's medallion by the store owner, who reveals that he is the reincarnation of Bachun, and that the youngster was formerly Haram, the warrior he raised. This is their second chance to fulfill the prophecy, and the boy must find a girl named Sarah, who has the same dragon tattoo as him, and bring her to the big cave. Ethan goes to his buddy Bruce and tells him to find the girl because she's definitely tied to the big trails, but the friend tells Ethan that they need more details because there are possibly thousands of women with the same name in the city. Meanwhile, Sarah watches the news on television about the massive landmarks and becomes concerned for her safety, sprinting home without even saying goodbye to her companion. She's plainly aware of the danger, and she makes an effort to protect herself by reading a book on ancient prophecies. When her friend Brandy returns home, she is astounded to discover that Sarah has erected countless paper talismans throughout the house to fight off evil. Sarah is comforted by the girl, who tells her that she's merely imagining the danger, but this doesn't help at all because she can't get rid of her natural fear. Sarah's fears are realized when the gigantic serpent appears in the city in search of the Yuh Yi Joo, killing everything in its way. The girl begins to have nightmares and wakes up in the middle of the night. She has excruciating agony from her birthmark and summons an ambulance to transport her to the hospital. After learning that Sarah had been admitted to the hospital, Brandy tries to locate her friend, but the nurse refuses to let her visit because only the girls' families are permitted. Brandy rushes to Sarah's house to pack some clothes for her friend because she has no other option, but she feels the ground shake from the outside. The girl dashes out of the house, only to be confronted by a massive serpent in front of her, who screams in terror. Before she can flee, Buraki bites her and throws her into the pool, where she drowns. The next day, Ethan receives word that a woman has been killed inside a house by a large snake, as claimed by the neighbors, and rushes to the scene, fearful that Sarah has already perished. When he arrives on the scene, he finds that the girl is not the one he was looking for, and he learns from a neighbor that Sarah had been taken to the hospital prior to the attack. He hurries over to the place, but is stopped by the front desk, who informs him that Sarah has been quarantined due to an infection-prone wound on her shoulder. Ethan tries to find another way in and encounters a doctor who is a big fan of the news reporter, and immediately assists him in finding the girl. Ethan informs her that he believes she is in danger and that they must leave immediately since the monster is nearby. Suddenly, the entire building begins to shake violently, as if the giant serpent has already tracked them to the hospital. The doctor comes in and informs the two that they must flee immediately since they are in grave danger. As the doctor slowly transforms into Jack, who has been watching over them since the beginning, Ethan leads the girl to the exit. They dash to Bruce's car, and the man immediately slams on the gas after seeing the monster emerge from the garage, chasing them down and destroying everything in its path. They rush out of the hospital and manage to elude the creature, which charges out one step behind them and roars in frustration at its prey. Before they can catch their breath, Bruce collides with someone and comes to a halt. However, it turns out that the man is a servant of Buraki who intends to return Sarah to his master. The two do their best to halt the general, but their strikes are ineffective against his armor. Fortunately, the man was struck by a car before the girl was abducted, and the driver whisks them away from danger quickly. After confirming that the two are unharmed, the woman drops them off and transforms back into Jack, demonstrating that the old man continues to assist them on their perilous journey. Sarah is perplexed by everything that is going on, and she begins to doubt her own sanity as she questions the visions she continues to see in her dreams. Ethan advises that they visit a psychology professor who specializes in recovering repressed memories in order to learn the truth about her past. As they kiss on the shore, he vows to keep her safe, but Ethan understands that if she is the true carrier of the Yuh Yi Joo, her fate is to die. On the other hand, the government's attention has been drawn to the city's constant attacks, and they have begun to suspect Sarah of being behind the monster's arrival. The mission leader realizes that if they are unable to contain the situation, they may have to kill the girl because the creature appears to be seeking for her. Buraki's general meanwhile begins utilizing various ancient scrolls to bring more of the serpent's minions and creatures into the world, as they prepare to take Sarah by any means necessary. The government is able to trace down the huge serpent's position and dispatches an army of special forces to kill it. They enter the monster's cave and are surprised to see the massive behemoth appear in front of them. The troops flee in terror and begin shooting at Buraki, but their strikes are ineffective because they are still fleeing the monster. The serpent's army, on the other hand, arrives on the opposite side and drives the troops into a corner. In a single attack, the general summons his magic and destroys the men. Meanwhile, Ethan's professor is attempting to extract Sarah's buried memories, and the girl soon begins to see her childhood and then her prior life as Naren. As her memories return, her spiritual strength awakens, enveloping her in a halo of glowing lights as Ethan stares in awe. Sarah recovers from the ordeal, but her abilities have alerted Buraki to their location, causing them to flee the house quickly. As the gigantic snake smashes the house and pursues them, tearing up the entire street in the process, the two flee rapidly. Fortunately, they are able to track down the monster in residential areas, and Ethan phones a friend to arrange for a helicopter because he recognizes they can no longer be safe on the ground. They meet up with Bruce in a restaurant, where he offers them supplies and informs them that the helicopter is on top of the news building. However, the enormous serpent manages to track them down once more, and begins demolishing the entire structure in order to capture the girl. They flee the building hastily as the creature pursues them from behind. Before they can be apprehended, the cops fire at the massive creature, distracting it long enough for them to flee. They keep sprinting towards the news building as the monster pursues them, wrecking everything in its path and throwing automobiles into the air. People in the city panic and flee in terror as the creature unleashes a barrage of explosives, wreaking havoc on the neighborhood. The two dash inside the news building, eventually reaching the rooftop where the helicopter awaits them, but the creature notices their presence and climbs to the roof as well. The helicopter tries to take off, but the serpent jumps on top of it, forcing Ethan and Sarah to get out before the carrier is smashed through the air and onto the earth. As Buraki roars in victory and stares directly at the pair, dark clouds begin to fill the sky, indicating that he intends to consume them in order to gain the power of the heavens. Fortunately, they are rescued when the U.S. military comes and begins firing a barrage of missiles and bullets at the thing, allowing them to flee the building. The serpent tries to fight back by destroying many helicopters, but the army's combined firepower manages to knock the big beast down and send it plummeting to the ground. They keep shooting despite the creature's screams of anguish, but they are unaware that an army of dragons is rapidly approaching the city. The monsters assault the choppers by throwing several fireballs at them, causing massive explosions and forcing the planes to flee. The monsters' ground forces arrive as well, and begin shooting multiple bombs at the cops, causing the area to be engulfed in explosions. The military replies by deploying armored vehicles against the creatures and the serpent's army of darkness, which is led by the general of the serpent. As the monsters surge towards the U.S. soldiers, the two armies draw closer together, igniting a tremendous fight. The tanks open fire on the army, killing the creatures, while the enemy retaliates by firing a barrage of bombs at the vehicles, causing massive damage. Meanwhile, Ethan and Sarah manage to flee the building, but they are confronted by government operatives who claim to be here to assist them and transport them away from the pandemonium. The agents transport them to an underground facility, where the senior officer discloses that he's familiar with the legends. He intends to kill the girl in order to put an end to the craziness, even if it means the creatures would return 500 years later. Before the man can fire the gun, the other agent murders his companion, realizing that the girl must survive in order to preserve humanity permanently. He hands them the keys to the automobile and urges Ethan to look after Sarah until they can change the world's fate. Ethan drives the girl to the border with the intention of fleeing to Mexico, but Sarah warns that their acts are futile because Buraki will follow her wherever she goes. The dragons assault their automobile with fireballs before they can finish their talk, causing it to roll over and crash onto the road. As the beasts round them, Ethan gradually loses consciousness. When the protagonist awakens, he finds himself bound to a pole in the desert, surrounded by the army of darkness. They lead the girl to the altar and bind her to the table, preparing her for sacrifice to the demonic serpent. As they open the massive door, the general and the army chant Buraki's name, releasing the monster to devour the girl. While Sarah screams in terror at the sight of this monstrosity, the giant serpent moves closer to the women and towers over them. Ethan desperately screams the woman's name, causing the medallion on his chest to awaken, summoning the thunders from the heavens, concentrating the energy into large shock waves that stun the entire army and turn them to dust. After the explosion, the giant serpent recovers and attacks them with rage, knocking Ethan away from the girl. Another Imoogi charges towards it and knocks it to the ground before it can devour Sarah. It grabs Buraki by the jaws and hurls him away from the couple. Buraki attacks the other Imoogi, biting its neck and throwing the giant serpent to the ground as the two giant monsters roar at each other. Sarah realizes that fulfilling her destiny is the only way to bring this story to a close. She approaches the serpents and summons the Yuh Yi Joo into the sky from her body. Buraki tries to grab the glowing orb, but Sarah sends it in the opposite direction, where the good Imoogi swallows the energy. When the evil serpent notices this, he attacks his rival, but the good Imoogi evolves and sheds its skin, eventually becoming a celestial dragon. It yells angrily and grabs Buraki, throwing him to the ground. The monster regains consciousness and attacks the dragon again, but it is no match for the celestial beast, and it is hurled to the ground once more. Buraki tries to grip the dragon's tail as it flies towards the sky, causing both of them to rocket into the air. The righteous Imoogi turns around and swats the serpent in the neck, tossing it down and crashing onto the ground. The dragon then charges a tremendous fireball and fires it directly into Buraki's mouth, burning the serpent from the inside out and eventually turning to dust. Zara's corpse evaporates into a brilliant aura that unites with the magical ball as the dragon returns to Ethan and spits out the Yuh Yi Joo. The celestial dragon roars up to the sky and captures Yuh Yi Joo. It then takes off into the sky, slowly dissipating into the clouds as it sheds tears of sorrow for Ethan's death. Before vanishing to the other realm, Jack comes behind the man and informs him that he'd done the right thing. Ethan bids his master farewell and continues heading into the desert, into a new future he has imagined for humanity. So, what are your thoughts on this decision? Please let me know in the comments section below. And if you like this video, please press like and subscribe for more. Thanks for watching.